So I want to talk a little bit about, why we're here today. As you know, today's theme is Children of the Dream, and it references Dr. King's famous speech given on August 28th, 1963. I was a 13-year-old then. In that speech, he laid out a vision for America that was radically different and fundamentally more just than the America we were living in. Dr. King laid out a vision of a country where we would live, work, and play with one another without regard to the color of our skin or any other superficial differences, and would instead be bound by our common humanity. Why something based on love and, frankly, common sense would turn out to be such a difficult pill for this country to swallow is an enduring mystery, but it's a mystery we have to solve. His vision for children, at the same time, has been an enduring vision of the civil rights movement. Unfortunately, I think as people know, 2 weeks after his speech, there was a senseless bombing in a church in Birmingham, Alabama, in which 4 young girls were killed. And that was the third, I guess, in a string of bombings that occurred. And prior to that, there had been the launching of the Children's Crusade late in the spring, when 1,000 students decided to skip school and march on downtown, demanding rights and justice for people in the black community of Birmingham. And they were met with arrests, and the next day, hundreds more joined the protest. They were beaten, they were clubbed, they were bitten by dogs, and all of this played out on national television and on the newspapers, and it became an international embarrassment for us. And sometime after that, Congress managed to pass some of the first civil rights laws in the country. But it took a long, hard struggle that we all know about in order to get us to that point. These two very different events held both the tragedy and promise of America. The murders were part of a long string of violence that endures even to our own time. And the dream is of an America when this madness ends, and there is no other word for it. That is the only word you can describe for what people have been subjected to. And King gave us something to look forward to that would motivate us in our work, because working to achieve that dream that he laid out is the noblest of all enterprises that we can be engaged in. King also knew that achieving the dream would not come without struggle, not work, but struggle. They're very different things, because powerful forces were arrayed against those who would try to achieve the dream. And King knew that the struggle would be carried out by children who would hear his words, because he had seen in the Birmingham Children's Crusade the youth of that city turn out for justice. He saw it in the boycotts, the sit-ins, and the protests, as waiting for change gave way to the struggle for change. He saw children who would become the next adult generation take up the civil rights struggle, even if it meant putting themselves and their lives on the line. The children of the dream are both the generation that we hope will get to live in that dream, and the generations who, inspired by that vision, will fight for that dream. I was a child of 13 when I went down to Washington and heard Dr. King speak that day, and I consider myself a child of that dream. At first, too innocent not to understand why we couldn't live it. I venture to say that most of you in this room are children of the dream. Most of you were born after that and came of age, I can tell by looking around the room, during some of those really crucial years in our history. The message was so clear that you just had to wonder why we couldn't do it. But the dream has informed me for a lifetime, and I think it's informed many of the people in this room. I know that, many of you from the work you do, and I know that you're committed to the cause of social justice. You are not alone. That's why you're here today, and that's why all of us have come together to this day to honor Dr. King. I want you to think of the civil rights heroes who once were just young people. John Lewis was 16 years old when he first attempted to get a library card at his local library, a crime for a black man in Georgia at that time. He would go on to be the youngest leader of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and he's now a civil rights legend and congressman. Diane Nash, John Lewis's classmate at Fisk University, would come to the South after growing up in a part of the United States that was not segregated, and decided to lead the Nashville Lunch Count, or sit-ins. Nash was a sophomore in college when she did this. And Maryland's own Freeman Habrowski, president of UMBC, for those who don't know that, marched in the Children's March in Birmingham. So I want to say something to the young people who are here with us today. What I would say is, you do not have to grow up to make a difference. You don't have to reach a certain age before you decide you will bear no further indignities or injustices. I encourage you to ask for what is right, to fight for what is just, and don't be incrementalists. Do not accept an inch-by-inch approach to justice. Justice is due in the beginning. It's not due at some date further down the road. So don't accept it. When people tell you no, or when people tell you not now, don't accept it. Keep the dream, stay focused, and believe in yourself and your cause.